In English, please, for Proposition 19 from the Promise Party, an organization attempting to educate the voters in November of the various initiatives on the ballot. Section 1 states the name of the initiative, which is Regulate, Control, and Tax Cannabis in 2010. Section 2 defines several intents and purposes, which I've summarized here as 1. The personal use, possession, transportation, cultivation, and consumption of cannabis, and also the commercial sale of cannabis, not the personal sale of cannabis. But at the same time, they define as their intent as to not hinder the enforcement of the following state laws relating to public health and safety or protection of children and others. So they don't want to in any way harm the general public by passing this. It just wants to give us more freedoms as their intents and purposes. In Section 3, it wants to define personal use and define personal regulation. So there will be no criminal offense for those persons of age 21 or older who possess, share, process, or transport no more than 1 ounce of cannabis solely for the individual's personal consumption and not for sale. Here, it is a little odd that it says share when you're not allowed to sell or give to minors. So it clearly is trying to make a definition that if you're on the sidewalk, or not on the sidewalk, but if you're in your personal home and you're with someone that's 21 or years or older and they're with you and you decide to smoke with them, that you are not breaking the law, that you are just sharing with them. So it's not trying to in any way undermine the fact that they can't sell or give to minors. It is just, giving a sense of security to the fact that, the same way as alcohol is treated now, you cannot just sell or give it to minors. It's just establishing that share factor. It is establishing the ability to grow cannabis in a 5x5 plot of land and on private property, such as your house. If you have a 5x5 section in your house to grow cannabis, you would be allowed to do that. You do have to get consent from your owner if you are renting, but if you are the owner, then it's completely legal. There's also the very important definition of being able to possess cannabis grown on your the private property for personal consumption, and then you're also allowed to possess the tools to facilitate your growing of cannabis. The law wants to define personal consumption to include possession and consumption in any form, such as all the derivatives and all the things that come from cannabis, such as edibles and other baked goods. Hash is another example of a derivative of cannabis, but it doesn't want to include personal consumption as the sale of any amount. So you cannot get it legally and then sell it to anyone and it be legal. It is completely illegal to sell this on the personal level. You'd have to get a commercial license. For consumption in public or a public place, such as a sidewalk, that's a public place. You would not be able to smoke on a sidewalk, and also not allowed to use when you're the operator of a vehicle, boat, or an aircraft. In the sense, there's also the sale aspect. They want to commercially regulate. So it wants the local governments to be able to control, license, regulate, permit, or otherwise authorize with conditions the following: the cultivation, processing, distribution, the safe and secure transportation, sale, and possession for sale of cannabis in amounts lawfully authorized. So they want to be able to allow local governments to put in systems such that all this is very effective. In much way the alcohol system is now. You have to have police able to go in and enforce laws. So local governments are going to have to switch the current system they have now to systems where they enforce a proper transportation, a legitimate transportation, make sure that minors are not working there, make sure that that product is not being siphoned off into the illegal markets if there happens to be any illegal markets after this law is passed, and just things in general like that. That they are not allowed to sell more than 1 ounce per transaction on licensed premises. So it allows the person to have up to 1 ounce legally, but for them to be able to sell more than 1 ounce would clearly be breaking that law. So they would just define it more accurately that they are not allowed to sell any more than the person is allowed to carry. Then you also have controls to prohibit access to cannabis to persons under the age of 21. So they want to establish laws in local governments or certain authorities to be able to enforce the prohibition of people under the age of 21, so that they cannot access it, and to have consumption within licensed premises, so that people can go there and actually use it on their premises without being punished. I mean, very much as a bar is allowed to do that, it'd be sort of a bar for smokers, or a smoking lounge, I guess you would consider it. They want to ensure the safe and secure transportation, which I've already said, to prohibit and punish through fines or other remedies for obtaining cannabis unlawfully. So they definitely want to still have things intact, which put people on the side that if they're breaking the law, that they're still going to get punished, because we're not completely saying that, oh, it's a free market, or that they're not clearly saying that it's a free market and you can do whatever you want. They still want to be able to make sure, in the same way alcohol is treated now, or cigarettes are treated now, that if you break the law, you're still going to get punished, and that these local officials are allowed to enforce it. Appropriate controls, including limits on zoning and land use, locations, size, hours of operation, occupancy, protection of adjoining and nearby properties and persons from unwanted exposure, advertising, signs and displays, and other controls necessary for protection of the public health and welfare. So this is sort of a limiting of freedoms, but they want to make sure that, if there is a massive amount of pot shops opening left and right, they want to make sure that, cities such as maybe Santa Monica or Los Angeles, they don't have other businesses ruined, or how they would consider ruined, but they don't want an excess of the advertising. So they're just giving cities the ability to control certain minor elements of the current system that they are advocating for. Appropriate environmental and health controls, such as obviously would say you're not allowed to smoke in bars anymore. That was a health control that they put in place for cigarettes. That is just one thing that that you're not allowed to do anymore. So they wanted to make sure and establish that we could still make laws ensuring our health is going to be guaranteed as for the general public. And also environmental controls, if for some reason